Welcome to the strange and mysterious world with William and Lee.
All right, and welcome to season 3, episode 3 of Strange and Mysterious World. This is our, like I said, our third episode. So, we've got Bibhu Dev Misra back, our resident guru, and we've kind of just been chatting about gnomes in the house. What gnomes in the house, William?
No, so the last time I was with Bibhu, I was in India with Bibhu, and we were doing. I was filming about his book and everything, and we were doing stuff on about Jesus, and we were in Kashmir actually, because we were trying to follow the route where Jesus was apparently in India, and we were staying at this. We're staying at this beautiful villa there. I mean, it was actually stunning, but I got really sick. And it's so funny because when I went to India, everyone was telling me like, "Oh my gosh, you're just gonna be peeing yourself to death. You're gonna have the shits like for days. You're just gonna go to India. You're just gonna be shitting yourself left, right, and center." So all the thing, that's all I could think about India. I'm thinking, I'm gonna get India, and I'm just gonna be shitting myself for fucking ever. Like, but as I get to India, and like the completely different. Like I didn't have a shit for 4 days while I was there. I was like constipated.
Yeah, I
Like
remember
I was like, what's going on here? Like, and no one told me like all the great things about India and like how amazing it is. All they could tell me was like, you're gonna go there and you're gonna have the shits. So like, that's what my whole concept of India was like. Oh, you go there and you get the shit. So like, I get there and
Go ahead.
and I'm constipated for 4 days, right? And I'm thinking, fuck, well, this is completely wrong. Like, what's going on here? I thought I was repeating myself. And but obviously, it's so beautiful. I'm like enjoying myself so much, but I'm like, fuck, but I'm not having a shit. Like, it's something wrong. So then I'm interviewing Bibhu about Jesus in India, and he's telling me all of these mudras that Jesus was holding, like I can't wait for the documentary to come out because he's got. Maybe we can talk about it on the show sometime. But it's like and all the very iconic art of Jesus, he's holding these certain mudras and what they all mean. So he gets to this one that says this is for digestion. So like I'm interviewing, I'm like, okay, so I just hold this mudra while I'm talking to Bibhu, and like 10 minutes later, I suddenly need to go to the bathroom, and I run to the bathroom, and I don't have the shit, but like at least I wasn't constipated anymore, so this mudra actually worked.
So you're saying some of the pictures. You're saying some of the pictures that we see of Jesus holding a mudra is actually needing a shit.
Or maybe he just wanted to get something moving.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He's
So what happened with the gnomes?
getting
How did the hell the gnomes come into that?
so anyway, then I get really sick, but it wasn't. It was I don't know what it was. It was like a flu symptoms, but I had this huge rash on my arm. But luckily, the people that were staying in the house, they were doctors. And I mean, and then I have a few stories. I don't know if we want to take up the whole podcast talking about our trip in India, but I mean, there was a few times we had to go have healthcare situations, like for various things, because we're trying to get up the mountain to Leh, and Bibhu had altitude sickness, and he had to actually had to go home, which was quite unfortunate. But the healthcare is amazing. So anyway, so I get sick, and we're in the house, and the people that own the house are doctors. So they just send a doctor around immediately. They do blood tests, they check everything out, and it was all for free. And they gave me all the medication for free. It was amazing. So anyway, so I'm lying there in bed, like I'm feeling so sick, and I'm lying there. And then Bibhu said to me, he was like, I'll come back later and give you some pills. He comes back, gives me pill water, he leaves, and then I'm lying there. And then I fall asleep, and then I just wake up because the door just opens up. It just opens and it just shuts. And I'm thinking, oh fuck, maybe it's Bibhu like watching or checking in on me or whatever. And I'm carrying on lying there, and then I just start hearing all of this child laughter, like there was some child downstairs laughing. And I'm thinking, what the fuck's going on? So anyway, but I'm too sick to really care. And so then I wake up in the morning, I go to breakfast, and Kiara's there, and Bibhu's there, and I go like, geez, guys, like, who came in and checked on me? And they're like, no, and so it's only 3 of us in this villa. And then they're like, no, it wasn't any of them. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah, but is there any children like around? Is there a neighbor that's got children? I heard a child in the house downstairs that was laughing. And they were like, no, we didn't hear any children. There's no children around here. So I was like, what? And obviously, Bibhu told me about the gnomes.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah, and you know what? A very similar thing happened to me as well. I was, generally before going to sleep, I meditate for a few minutes, and then I was doing that on the first night, and I got the same feeling. That's the door open, because when the door opens, you get that bit of light coming inside the room. So I got that light, and the door closes again. The first time I just rush out, and I thought that maybe Will or Kiara is checking in, and there was nobody there. And then it happens again to me, and then I'm like, there must be some freaking spirit in the house, who's roaming around, kind of curious, because this is like a guest house. Not too many people go there. It's not a hotel or anything. And then I kept the door open at night. I thought that, spirit, come in and go as you want. Just don't freak me out with, constant opening and closing of the door. So when Will told me the story after a couple of days, I was like, the same stuff happened to me, but I didn't tell him about it because he was anyway sick. He was agitated about the kid laughing in the house. I didn't want to freak him out, and I didn't tell him anything about that. But there was
Oh,
probably
wow.
something going on in that house. Yeah,
Amazing. Wow, but geez, that was quite a trip, baby. That's wow, I
yeah.
really
But
can't
tell me,
relate.
what's the mythology of gnomes in India? What's the because I know they've got a gnome type creature out in Denmark, Norway, in Scandinavia. They've got like a this whole mythology on gnomes. But I've never heard of gnomes in India, to be honest.
Oh no, they used to be extremely popular. I mean, we have a particular god of the gnomes. In India, we call them yakshas, yakshas, Yakshas,
Okay.
and we have a king of the yakshas. He's called Kubera, and he's the god of wealth, because the dwarfs or the gnomes, they are the custodians of the wealth that is under the surface of the earth. They're supposed to live in giant caverns or caves inside the earth, and they are kind of mining for wealth and making all kind of stuff with it. And so
Okay.
this king of the dwarfs, Kubera, he's people pray to him for wealth. And they also in the ancient times, during the, let's say, around 2000 years back, during the time that Buddhism was growing in India, they used to build these shrines to the dwarf gods under a tree, and they used to go there and pray for protection. They were very important for three things. Firstly is protection. They protect the village, or they protect the house, or they protect your farmlands from thieves and things like that. And second is fertility. If you have a problem conceiving children, you kind of pray to a yaksha, and he does some magic with you or something, and then you can conceive. And third thing is wealth. Since they're the custodians of wealth, you obviously pray to them for that as well. And then when you read some of these stories, Kubera has a vimana, which is basically a flying vehicle.
Mhm.
And there's a story where that vimana gets stolen by his brother, who's called Ravana. And then there's this big story of a fight between Rama, who is a hero of the Treta Yuga. He fights with Ravana. And then Rama takes his Vimana, or his UFO, the vehicle, and he flies on it back to his kingdom in Ayodhya. So, I mean, this Vimana story, I mean, we talk a lot about Rama traveling on a Vimana through the sky with his monkey army, and everybody knows that story. But what is not commonly mentioned is that that Vimana originally belonged to the king of the dwarfs. So the dwarfs are supposed to be making this kind of machines which can fly. So and then when you think of these UFO stories, a lot of these grays, they appear like dwarf beings, with these large eyes and around 3 feet tall. So which
Yes, I
kind
was
of,
going to ask you, like, is that the same description in the text? Like,
yeah,
they
if you
describe
go
them
to
as grey.
yeah, if you go to an Indian temple, a lot of old Indian temples, they carve these statues of the dwarfs or the yakshas in near the entrance of the temple. So on either side of the entrance, you'll find these very short, squat figures. They're slightly plump around the belly, and they act as they'll be holding some kind of mace or some kind of club. So they're kind of protecting the temple from intruders. And you also see them. Let's say you have a pillar which is supporting a column up there, and you'll have the dwarf carved under the supporting column. It's almost as if the dwarf is helping you to lift all of those heavy stones into place and helping you in the construction of the temple, because they're always there in the supporting in a kind of a supporting role for the temple. And then when I was reading about the Mayan dwarfs, what they say is that when Eric Thompson, who was like the father of Mayan archaeology, he went to Mesoamerica, to Mexico, and he was one of the first people to talk to the natives about how these ancient Maya sites were built. And they said that we did not build it then ourselves. It's actually the dwarfs who helped us to build these temples. They used to kind of whistle, and the stones automatically floated through the air and positioned
Oh,
itself
wow.
at the right place. So when I read that, I was like, we have the exact same belief about the dwarfs in India, as in we don't talk about them building the temples, but you can clearly see them in some kind of a building and protecting role.
Well, it kind of
So
makes
yeah,
sense. So obviously, J.R.R. Tolkien got his idea about the dwarves from that, because it sounds very. I mean, his idea about the dwarves is they were the keepers of the gold. They were weapon makers. If you go to the Norse mythology, the dwarves were the magical. They used to
yeah,
make magical weapons for the gods, always
right.
underground. But I think what makes a lot of sense is the gray aliens. They've got the massive almond eyes, and you would only have massive eyes if there's a very low light area that you're living
Right.
in. So
Exactly.
if you're
Yeah.
living subterranean, you would need large eyes to kind of adjust to see what's going on. So yeah, that's very
Exactly.
fascinating.
And when you look
Yeah.
at the carvings of these dwarfs in India, the most defining feature about them, apart from their size, is the size of their eyes. It's like
Mm.
big and bulging. And
Oh,
and then when you look at that, you know that it's the same thing that you see for the Greys. I mean, they have these big eyes.
Mm.
And
Jeez.
the Maya used to call them ant people, and the Hopi use the same term for their dwarfs. They call them the ant people. And according
they
to
look like ants. 'Cause
Yeah,
ants
they
look
yeah,
do.
like grey.
and
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
Mm.
yeah, they
yeah.
also have this sometimes wear this headgear, and they have this antenna coming out from the headgear. So overall, it gives you an ant-like appearance. And the Hopi say
Wow.
that when see, the Hopi also have this story about four worlds, right? The first world, which was destroyed, and then there was second world, which was not as good as the first world. So it's kind of like the Yuga cycle that we have in India, or the Great Year. And they say that every time particular world is destroyed, whether it's by water or fire or something, some righteous people were taken by these ant people to their underground locations, and they stayed there. And these underground locations were said to be very brilliantly lit by different kinds of stones. They don't really use lamps and stuff, they use all kinds of precious stones. And there was a lot of food there, and they stayed in these underground locations for some period of time. And during that time, the world above was completely destroyed and reconfigured and renewed. And when they came out of that underground location, it's completely transformed.
Well,
So,
sorry,
Wow. But those are like
David,
those.
just
so we need to look for some of these underground locations,
no,
because
but we've
But there
got
is
them.
one in
Because the
Turkey.
No,
Kali
Turkey.
Yuga, Kali Yuga is ending, and I haven't yet received
no,
any kind of intimation about where to go.
no. I'm telling you now that they've actually found those things, because I was in Turkey last year,
Right.
and we went through
Derinkuyu,
to
yeah,
Derinkuyu.
yeah,
We went into the underground facility, and they've got like 11 stories going down.
right.
And these came, they say, "Oh yeah, but it was for livestock." And I'm saying bullshit, because uh,
Gosh.
your livestock, for example, your cows would never fit in those tunnels. They would never fit in those tunnels
Never.
at all,
Yes, some of
because
the
you
tunnels are so narrow. Some of them are so
correct.
narrow and so
Yes,
low. It's difficult even for a human being to pass through those tunnels. They're
exactly.
so low.
And then
Yeah.
what they actually found was, because you've got Derinkuyu on the one side, and you've got that they've actually found there is 250 kilometers of
Yeah,
tunnel.
it's connected to another tunnel called, uh,
Yes.
yeah, I
So I
don't
mean,
remember
come
the
on,
other
who's going
name.
to
Yeah.
build 250 kilometers of tunnels of housing underground? Come on, man. To what? To hide from
Well,
And
enemies?
and how do you, and what do you use for lighting? If humans live there, what you
Exactly.
use for lighting. If you light a lamp down there, you'll be suffocated because
Correct.
the oxygen level anyway goes down. You light a lamp, you can't live there anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
where do you
And even
where do you go for for taking a shit? Do you like every time you need to go to
don't do that mudra down there. Just don't do that mudra down there.
the every time you want to take a pee, I mean, are you like going to climb up seven levels and go out?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah.
can you imagine what it might be living down there at night?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
lights. I mean,
And also like the ant people, because they're
human beings
digging
need
like that.
light.
Yeah.
We need light. We need fresh air, and there's nothing down there. Why would you even try to build something so difficult and make life difficult for yourself?
Exactly.
Yeah, sure. And also another description, the ant people, because obviously if they're living underground, they look like ants. They're digging like ants, making
Mhm.
like little colonies under there. So yeah, there must have been definitely some
No, there definitely is, and
dwarves down.
apparently they've found something similar out in Ireland, or out in the UK, or in Great Britain.
There's another interesting thing about Derinkuyu. What they found is that when you look at the macro figure of Derinkuyu with all of those
Yeah,
little blocks, it looks exactly like an ant colony.
it does.
Oh, wow.
If you compare a underground ant colony with all those tunnels and those little houses underground, and you compare it to Derinkuyu, it looks absolutely identical.
It does. Yeah.
So some people are saying that why did they use the architecture of ants to construct this underground stuff? Probably because that's why maybe they're called ant people, because they
Mm,
kind of live like ants, they dig like ants, and they build these underground structures. And they might have used precious stones to light up these underground caverns, which is why they could live there. I mean, you can't really light a lamp and stay there. It's going to suffocate you.
yeah, 100%. You can't put fires out there. You can't do anything because all that stuff
No.
will kill you. Yeah. So yeah, 100%, man.
But
And
Bibhu, what's
yeah,
yeah, go for it.
yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, so I was just gonna say this brings me to the next thing. So since your book, you've actually been continuing your research about this Yuga shift, and you've come up with this like new theory, or not theory, like your findings of the data is showing that there's this 26,000-year cycle of extinction cycles that actually like correlate exactly to the ancient Indian texts. And yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about that because it was just so fascinating.
Yeah, we had a session where we spoke about the Yuga cycle, or the cycle of the ages, or the Greeks used to call it the Great Year, and we just spoke about the Hopi and their vision of four worlds. And the duration of the cycle is equal to the precession cycle of the Earth, which is 25,800 years. We can just round it off to 26,000 years. And so we go from a golden age to a dark age like ours, which is called Kali Yuga. And then after that, we ascend back to the golden age. So each of there are two half cycles. The descending half cycle is around 12,900 years, and then there's ascending half cycle of around 12,900 years. That adds up to 25,800 years, which is the precession cycle of the Earth. And the precession cycle is basically, the position of the sun at the point of the vernal equinox. It moves backward along the zodiac, and it completes one cycle in 25,800 years. And in my book, I suggested that the easiest way of explaining precession is that the solar system kind of rotates on its axis as it moves around the galactic center, because the solar system is also a spherical object. We think of it as a flat planetary disk, but actually it's enclosed by a sphere of comets known as the Oort cloud. So like the Earth, the solar system is also a spherical object. And we know that every spherical object rotates on its axis as it revolves. And that has to be done in order to conserve the original angular momentum. There's no spherical object out there which does not rotate. So we can be pretty certain that the solar system is also rotating on its axis as it moves around the galactic center. And if it does that, then what will happen is that the position of the sun during the vernal equinox is going to slightly shift over time, thereby creating this cycle. So anyway, that's the smaller cycle, or the Yuga cycle. And there's a question is that many people have asked me, is that do these cycles continue indefinitely forever, or are they part of an even bigger cycle? And the answer is yes, there is a bigger cycle. And that bigger cycle is 26 million years, unlike this one. This is 26,000 years. And there's a bigger cycle known as the day and night of Brahma, which extends for 26 million years. And that exactly correlates to the 26 million year cycle of mass extinctions that we have on our planet, which is reflected in the fossil records. So let me just explain what this 26 million year cycle looks like as per the ancient Indian texts. What they say is that there's a day of Brahma, and which extends for half of the duration. For 12.9 million years, there's a period called a day of Brahma. And during that time, you have life and civilization on Earth. And during that time, you go through a sequence of yugas of 25,800 years duration. After 12.9 million years, the entire creation is dissolved into unmanifested matter. And everything is like a calm ocean, like a ocean, lifeless ocean, unmanifested, and remains like that for a night of Brahma, which is of another 12.9 million years. And then after the night of Brahma is over, then there's again a day of Brahma, and that's when the creation process of creation is again restarted, and you have life coming out of unmanifested matter, and this again continues. So that's the process. There's a day of Brahma when there's life and creation on earth, and then there's a night of Brahma when everything is dissolved, there's no life, and then there's another day of Brahma and night of Brahma, and it goes on like that. So if there's a dissolution of life at the end of a day of Brahma, then the time span between two such dissolution events should be 25.8 million years, because let's round it off to 26 million years. So there's a dissolution event or a destruction event or an extinction event at the end of a day of Brahma. And the next day of Brahma is after another 26 million years. So every 26 million years, you should see a mass extinction of life forms on Earth. And that is exactly what they have found. In 1984, Rob and Sepkoski of the University of Chicago, they were studying marine life forms, and they were plotting when they appeared and when they disappeared in the fossil records. And they found that all life is extinguished after every 26 million years. There's a mass extinction event when all life is extinguished. And then again, after another 26 million years, boom, another such event. And the most famous of such events was the extinction of dinosaurs, which happened 66 million years ago. Because that time we know that the Earth was there were so many different kinds of dinosaurs, and then there was this big asteroid around 20 kilometers wide, which struck the Earth at near Mexico. There's a large crater of the Yucatan coast, which is called the Chicxulub crater, and it struck the Earth and created this 200-kilometer diameter crater. And it's just generated such a huge amount of energy, like a billion times more energy than the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima. And it just, it created massive tsunamis, hundreds of kilometers high. It sent shock waves. It basically sent out a huge mass of molten materials into the Earth's atmosphere, which set everything on fire thousands of kilometers. Nearly 70% of the Earth's forests were destroyed in that event. And 75% of all species disappeared. But all life was destroyed, but 75% of species disappeared. What that means is that some of these species which existed at that time, they appeared again later. But at that point of time when the impact happened, everything, all life, 99.9999% of life was destroyed. Nothing was living.
And let me ask you a
And
question quickly, Bibhu.
yeah.
So say for example, now we've got the dinosaur, because I know there were different ages of the dinosaurs as well. There was the what's it, the Pleistocene age, and there was this age and that age and whatever age, and they all lasted millions and millions of years. But so I want to ask you now, in that specific dinosaur age of that specific era, say it was 20 million years for that one. was there a development of a creature that would have had some sort of consciousness, understanding, knowledge? You know what I mean? Almost like a human, how we think, how we develop, how we create. And then obviously they disappeared, and then the next kind of dinosaur era arose, where it was what do they call it, man? There's a different. There was the
Triassic, Jurassic,
yes,
and
yes, yes. So in the
yeah.
Jurassic periods and those, they would have these specific creations that would have got to a point of high evolution, where the consciousness would have evolved, the you know what I mean, the understanding, their environment, the awareness. Do you think that's possible, or do you think that only really happened once the human was introduced to this kind of cycle?
Yeah, that's a difficult one to answer because if we go by evidence of fossils, then it's only in the last 2 million years that we seem to see human fossils.
Mm.
And the most recent day of Brahma actually began around 2 million years ago. So this day of Brahma will carry on for another nearly 11 million years. This day of Burma is not ending anytime soon, so you can take it off your calendar, not worry about it.
No, not March next year.
No,
March
that's
this year, not
Kali
next
Yuga.
year.
I mean, March
March,
this year. March
yeah,
this year. March this year.
that's the thing you have to worry about. And this is going to be ekpyresis, cleansing by fire, and you can already see what's happening in LA. I mean, 2025 came in and boom, you start having firestorms, right?
Yeah, just for our listeners that don't know what we're talking about, that Bibhu's prediction, or he took all of the Yuga cycle timelines and he calculated that the end of the Kali Yuga is on the chiseled. I'm sorry, guys.
21st of March this year, 2025.
Yeah, but now, so
Yeah.
okay, so you've got the exiting of the Kali Yuga going into the what's
So
the new
now
one?
there's going to be it's going to be a period of transition. It's a long period of transition of around 1200 years.
Mm.
But the destructive part is going to happen up front, and after that is going to be more of a redevelopment and establishing the foundations of a new civilization based on very different principles than the ones that we are following now. And then there's going to be an ascending cycle, and the first Yuga in the ascending cycle will be Dwapara. Again, it's basically the mirror of the other one. This one comes down, and so you go from Golden Age, then Silver Age, Bronze Age, and then Iron Age, and then again you'll go into Bronze, Silver, and then back to Golden. So it's going to be a gradual ascent.
Okay.
But now we are going to a period of transition, and this period of transition is called ekpyresis. The Greeks used to call it ekpyresis, which means cleansing by fire. They said that there are two such periods of extended periods of transition. One which happened at the end of the Golden Age, that one was called Cataclysms, which means deluge. And that is the time that the world was destroyed by ice and water. And that was the time when you had the Great Flood, which is recounted in so many ancient stories and legends. And it corresponds to the period of time that we now know as the Younger Dryas period. We know that the Younger Dryas period extended for nearly 1200 years, and there were a number of comet impacts that took place during that time, and global temperatures had plummeted down by nearly 15 degrees Celsius. It was a long period of freezing cold, and it matches up with what they say about cataclysms, because cataclysms is also called the great winter of the great years. So we did have a great winter of nearly 1200 years, which we call the Younger Dryas. And now we are going into a period called ekpyresis, which means fire or burning or conflagration. And this is time when the renewal is going to take place through fire. And that fire can be in the form of wildfires. It can be in the form of firearms, wars and stuff, because that's also fire. It can be in the form of impact events, because if a meteor or a comet strikes us, it sets off a wildfire. It can be all of those
Or like
things,
sun.
or it can be solar flares. Yeah, it can be.
But also, they say in the Bible, the next coming of the end of the world's by fire as well. What it says in the Bible.
Yeah. It's alternately between water and fire. It alternates between those two. But you do have smaller transitions on the descending cycle. You do have smaller periods of catastrophe and transitions. But these are the two big ones, which take place at the end of the complete descending cycle and the complete ascending cycle. That's when the deep cleaning takes place, because we have really messed up our planet in terms of its ecology, and it's going to take some time to clean it up. So yeah, 2025 is supposed to be the beginning of the period of expirances, the beginning of the period of fire. And guess what you have at the beginning of 2025? You have these uncontrollable wildfires going off in LA. And
Yes. And also the end of the Kali Yuga is in March.
yeah, it's not as if the world is going to fall apart on 21st March. It's just a date, an
Escalating.
indicative date. Huh?
It's
It's just
escalating.
yeah, it's just gonna escalate. It's already started. I mean, you can clearly see the process has started and it's gonna escalate even more.
Now, what's up with the drones
But
out in the US and around the world? What's going on? Everybody are seeing these weird, funny things. What's
Yeah.
up with that? Do you think there's anything
And,
anything to that?
I think they're drones, they're not UFOs, because when I read the initial reports, everybody said that they look like drones, they fly like drones, they look like, some said they look like Russian drones or Iranian drones or Chinese drones or whatever. They're not UFOs, but later on they started changing the story and saying, oh no, this drone did this or that. So if you have drones and if you have the government telling you that, we don't know what they are, but they're perfectly safe, that means they're lying to you. I mean, if you don't know what they are, you can't tell us that they're perfectly safe. So the government knows what's going on, which basically tells me that it's probably some kind of secret military operation or secret military surveillance or some kind of CIA stuff or secret service stuff going on. They might be planning something, maybe another false flag attack or something. You don't know. I mean, you just have to wait and see how it pans out. But I don't definitely think it's a UFO phenomena. And I
But
think they're like,
it might be actually what you're saying. So you're saying the stuff is happening with fire. So they perhaps know that the Kali Yuga is ending and the new Yuga is starting in March. So they're escalating something to make it look like there is some sort of invasion, like what we call the Project Bluebeam. So they trying to escalate something to make it look and then create wars, create massive wars, not like what's going on now. But things that like World War III, it's becoming just like chaotic. So it might be kind of feeding into what you're saying now with the change of the yugas.
yeah, I mean, they might be trying to create some kind of fear or anxiety in the people. Uh, but I think I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing they're probably prepping for something. It can't be a Project Bluebeam, because right now we don't have the technology to pull off Project Bluebeam. It might take another a few more years for us to, you know, do that in public light.
Although
So,
saying that, I mean, I've seen these guys out in China and all the rest of it with all these drones that they've actually got, and they look like they put millions up at one time, and they all look like dragons flying and Father Christmas in the sleds. I mean, it actually looks like if you go look at the videos that they've been showing, and you can see it's just this massive visual that's happening out in the sky, and it looks fantastically. They look beautiful. So I don't know
is it
actually how
drone?
far.
Is it drones or is it like holograms?
No, drones. They've actually got drones that's they've kind of programmed them to all rise at the same time. So these ones would rise at this height, these ones rise at those, and they actually
Oh, all right, yeah.
with the lights on, they form some sort of shape,
Oh,
and it looks like
all
this
right, I get you.
massive. You know what I mean? So maybe that's
Formation, yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
But
some
anyway,
funny stuff is going on.
so,
Maybe it'll become clear after a couple of months
yeah.
or a few months. Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, so sorry, Bibhu, digress. I still wanted to talk about that 26-year cycle of extinction, because so there was 12, the night and day of Brahma. So there was 12. There's an extinction episode in the fossil records that shows there's a bunch of animals, and then 99% of them die off completely. So then there's no trace of any life for like another like millions of years, and then all of a sudden there's just like boom in the fossil record. There's something like all of these animals, and it's like as if like They come out of nowhere. There's no evolution. There's no evolution evidence. They just come out of nowhere, like as if like Brahma just woke up and he's like, here we go, fuck, put some animals on the earth, boom. And then, but there's still a few of the fluffy ones that they have not in the fossil record, or like a few that just only appear as well with those species. And can you just explain like the research and what do you think there? Is it just because we haven't found the other fossils?
Could you just repeat that last question?
Oh, is it because have we just not found the other fossils, or is this like a thing from paleontologists? They actually know, okay, well, there's just like this really weird phenomenon that's going on, but
Well,
they
no,
haven't really tested it.
all the paleontologists know that there are no intermediate forms. I know Darwin said that there's a gradual evolution, and that new species are formed by the gradual transformation of older species. And he said that there must be some intermediate links, but the reason we can't find it now is because there must be the geological record is not perfect. And then a lot of paleontologists bought into that argument. They didn't find any intermediate forms, and they still kept on saying that it's a gradualistic model of evolution, when in fact the data shows that when a new species appears, it appears all at once and fully formed. So what happened is that in the 1980s, there were a pair of paleontologists in Harvard. One was called Jay Gould, and the other guy was Niles Eldredge. They were like they completely demolished Darwinism. They said that we paleontologists have paid an exorbitant price for Darwin's argument. We consider ourselves to be the only true students of Earth's ancient data, but we have been so drastically influenced by Darwinism that we view the data that we study to be as so bad that we don't see the very process that we want to study. So we are saying, so what he's basically saying is that we are saying that our data is so bad, it doesn't show anything. It doesn't show any of our theories. The data is so bad. And he said that that can't be true. We have got enough data now, and we see the same trend everywhere. And what we see is that there are sudden events, sudden sporadic events when life completely disappears. And then there are sudden sporadic events when life suddenly reappears in the fossil record. And when it appears, it's like fully formed. And the process of this new appearance of life forms, it takes place anywhere between 5,000 to 50,000 years, and which is kind of like a geological eye blink. 5,000 to 50,000 years is like that in the fossil records. So all of a sudden, you see a sudden flowering of life form. You don't see this gradual evolution at all, either when the species are being destroyed. Even when a species is being destroyed in a mass extinction event, there's no way to tell which species are going to reappear again. Everything dies off. You can't predict that, oh, these species are going to survive. Maybe they'll reappear in the fossil records and these won't. No, it's totally random. You don't know which ones are going to reappear again in the fossil records. Similarly,
Yes, but it's not like survival of the fittest. There's no survival of the fittest.
There's
It's
no
just
survival of the fittest at all. At all, it's completely missing in the fossil records. And when the new creation appears, there's no gradual intermediate links. And Jay Gould was saying that not only do we not find any intermediate links, we can't even visualize what those links might be. We can't even imagine them. And he came up with a new theory called punctuated equilibrium. So punctuated equilibrium means there's a process over billions of years, there's an equilibrium, and then that equilibrium is punctuated by a sudden creation or a sudden destruction event. So he's saying this is a term that he used to describe that. And he was really frustrated with all the other scientists and paleontologists of his time. He said that uh, I'm a strong advocate of the general argument that truth, as preached by scientists, more often than not turns out to be prejudice, which is influenced by the prevailing social and cultural beliefs. And that statement is still true today, because what we get as truth from science is more often than not just their prejudice. They've decided to push a particular theory down our throats, and they keep repeating it, and they never tell you about all of the data which goes against that theory. The same is true about the Yuga cycle. They keep telling us we have evolved gradually over last 2 million years. What we find out in the last 12,000 years, our physical size has come down by 10% or more. Physically, we're 10% smaller than the people who lived at the end of the Ice Age. Our cranial capacity has declined by 10 to 17%. That's enormous. That is supposedly the same amount of cranial volume we had gained in 2 million years of evolution from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens. The same amount of cranial volume we have lost in the last 12,000 years. How does that happen? How do you explain it in terms of Darwinian evolution? You can't, and that's why they don't talk about this data. But it's there. It's there in all the journals. Every anthropologist knows this data. So what's happening is that cranial capacity never really increased in a straight line. It always goes up and down like that, over a 25,800 year cycle, which is why it's declining now. And after this Kali Yuga is going to be over and we go into the ascending cycle, once again, we are going to get back our cranial capacities, and that's going to restore our intelligence, our memory. Our memory is so bad. I mean, our ancestors could remember this huge text. They could memorize that and transmit it to the future generations, and we have a difficulty remembering even our passwords. I mean, that's so bad. And we've also lost all the we've also lost all the subtle abilities that we had in the higher yugas. Things like telepathy. The Hopis say that their ancestors could communicate with animals telepathically, and now you can't communicate with anybody telepathically.
Yeah,
And
correct. Can't even communicate with ourselves.
clairvoyance abilities.
Yeah, that's why we're fighting each
Yeah.
other because like we can't communicate, like just verbally. We just, with our wife, with anybody, we're just fighting.
Yeah.
We just So yeah, this whole idea of a linear pattern of evolution, either over millions of years or a linear pattern of evolution of human beings ourselves, the data does not support that. When you look at the data, what you see is gradual ups and downs over millions of years.
Yeah, and just the Darwin theory. It's so funny because my dad's an ecologist, and he studied obviously all the Darwin things, and he's read all his books, and he would always tell me when we were growing up, he would be like, yeah, but there's huge data in the fossil record that suggests that is just a theory. But even Darwin quoted it. He said, yes, but they haven't found the fossils yet. That's why.
Well, you're not going to. I mean, because there isn't.
But that's also what's so frustrating with science. So science will just they'll make up a theory and then they'll find some data to try and support the theory, instead of doing what science is. You're supposed to go with the data and then find a theory from the data, but not find a theory and then try and find data to support it. I mean, it's just backwards. You know what I mean?
And after 200 years, if you haven't still found the data, I mean, it's time to admit that the data does not exist. And then you have to come up with a new theory to explain what's really going on. Because if you're not following the data, that's not science. That's just, you're just making up a story. And that's the difference between science and technology. I worked in technology for 2 decades. And in technology, you can't just make up a story. You have to walk the talk. If you say that something needs to, work like this, you better go and make it work like that. And then you know that, yeah, you're right. But in all of the soft sciences, like geology or paleontology, anthropology, even archaeology, you can pretty much make up a story and keep repeating that story all your life without anybody challenging you, because you're not furnishing the data.
Yeah, and also because you've studied it for whatever 6 years at university, so you must know what you're talking about. But that's just
but it's
license to make up whatever they want.
Yeah, but
I mean,
if a geologist tells you,
millions and millions of years ago something happened, where's the proof? Where's the video cam recording of that? I want to see that.
Yeah, correct. It's the same as why the archaeologists keep saying, and I don't know why they keep pushing this agenda, but they keep saying that the pyramids were built by the Egyptians when they weren't. Clearly they weren't. Clearly it was built by a race of beings that existed prior to the civilization that we currently have. And I mean, you can see them around the world. It's not just found in one area, they're found around the world. So there was a pyramid building civilization. Everybody knows this, but they keep pushing this agenda to say it was done because they found that stupid bloody writing in the main pyramid, that scribble of paint.
Yeah, and who knows who scribbled that one? It could have been done much later.
Yeah, because they say no, it was the guy that actually, what was his name?
Khufu.
Yeah, but it was the guy that found it was the military guy. He was working for Britain at the time, and he was lacking funding. And all of a sudden, he found this magical text above, which the Egyptians would never have done that. That's something they don't just scribble stuff. Well, there's no hieroglyphics.
Yeah,
They would go
exactly.
and carve the stuff out, but no carvings, no hieroglyphics were found in that thing. So I mean, anybody could have done, like you said. They arrived there,
Apparently, he spelled it wrong
10,000
as well.
years. Yeah,
I
he
mean,
did. He spelled it wrong.
we were talking about Derinkuyu. We were talking about Derinkuyu, and somebody went and scribbled a cross somewhere on the
Yeah.
walls, and then they
Yeah.
started saying that the Christian, the early Christians, they were getting
Christian ants, the
persecuted.
Christian ants.
They were getting persecuted, and you don't build a stuff like that when you're getting persecuted, man. You can't even build it with all the resources of a emperor. And how can a few people who are getting persecuted build a stuff like that?
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, that was so easy to kill everybody that's underneath there. There's I
Yeah,
mean,
you just close all the entrances and that's it. You don't need to do anything more.
Exactly.
You just wait for them to come out. You go near the entrance and wait for them to come.
Just get like a big can of doom. Get a big can of doom, a target, lay it down and
Yeah, but I don't know. Some of the theories that the guys come up with are just so stupid. I mean, but you can see it. I mean, I was in there. I went into those caves. I walked down those stairs, and I just said to my wife, I said, "There's no ways. These pictures that they've got there, that's a lot of bollocks. That's so crap that these guys what they've explained and
And
why."
the problem is that so many people buy into these stories. I mean, we're in the Kali Yuga, our brain size has reduced by like 17%. For some people, it might be even 50%. I mean, that's the way. I mean, they'll believe anything you tell them. If you repeat it 3 times, they'll believe you.
It's like there's that, not a new thing, but there's a Christian, well, besides the stupid flat earth theory, which kind of pisses me off, but the idea that the earth is actually only 6,500 years old. Because now there's like these Christian guys that go around to all the rock and they say, no, this is actually how, and all the Christians fall for it. They say, oh, no, this is how it is because God said that. And I'm thinking, but guys, you actually, first of all, you're reading a book that was written by hundreds of different people, all put together for one sort of agenda. They borrowed from different places, like the Garden of Eden, that was all borrowed from the Sumerian texts. Stuff was borrowed from India. There was stuff borrowed. Certain, you know what I mean? You guys are trying to follow a book that's been put together by who knows who. And then you're going on by what people are saying, because in the Bible, it says God created the earth in 6 days. 6 days could be 6 billion years. Do you know what I mean? A day doesn't mean one day as we know it.
Right. And when they say 6,000 years, 6,000 years ago, the Kali Yuga cycle started. So when they were saying that, when it says that God created the world 6,000 years ago, it basically means that this current cycle started around 6,000 years ago. And he did. So you need to interpret it in the light of what we now know through the other sciences, the data. But some people they'll just keep on insisting. Yeah.
And we keep getting pushed back because you've got also in Turkey, what's that place that they found that's actually larger? Göbekli Tepe. I've been there as well. And that there now they think, okay, shit, hold on, that's been dated to 9,000 BC. So everything keeps going further and further and further back. And these guys that are now trying to figure out that the world was only 4,000 years are thinking, okay, how do we like fit this now into our into ideas?
Yeah, it just if you take it, yeah.
So David, go for it, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like one of those fanatics, you can't. There's no evidence. There's no evidence out there which can ever convince a fanatic. No amount of evidence will change somebody's mind who has been deeply indoctrinated by a particular text or a particular religion. And it's no point trying. In India, we have this problem that in some of the texts, the duration of this Yuga cycle of 25,800 years, it was blown up to a huge number, which runs into like 4 million years. And you go and tell these guys, look, this cycle is there in every culture, and every culture is around the half cycle is around 12,000 years. It's not 4 million years. But they won't believe you. They'll be like, is there in that particular text that is very sacred, the blah 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 gods and the rishis, and they all good. So they won't believe you no matter how much evidence you show that no, it can't be that long. There are other texts in India as well which tell you that the half cycle is around 12,900 years. The Greek texts which tell you the half cycle is around 10,000, around 12,000 years. The Persian texts which tell you the half cycle is around 12,000 years. All of them can't be wrong. So your sacred text is not right. It was inflated because we've passed through a long period of time which we call as the Kali Yuga, when knowledge has been distorted, when texts have been lost, when texts have been distorted, lies have been propagated. You have to wake up to that fact. You can't claim anything to be absolutely true at the end of the Kali Yuga. You need to make an effort to find out what's the truth. But even if you spoon feed them, these guys are not going to change, because indoctrination is that kind of a thing. You just can't change it.
Yeah, agreed.
Bibhu, what's your new book you're working on?
Well, it's about the cosmology of the ancient people. It's much bigger and vaster than we ever thought. And so we are talking about the flat Earth. Yeah, there is a flat Earth, but that flat Earth is not the planet Earth. It's something different. So that's the kind of thing I'll be talking about in the new book.
Oh, great.
Okay.
When is it going to come out?
I wish I knew. I mean, my Yuga cycle.
Well, have you got like a deadline, or like, not a
my
deadline, like a
Yuga,
kind of
Yuga, Yuga shit was supposed to have come out at least 5 years ago, right? So don't don't trust me when I tell you about.
Okay, so 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but yeah,
Very
hopefully by the end of this year. But that take it with a grain of salt. I don't know.
Okay, well, you
cool,
let us
man.
know.
Well, really,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't wait.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because we'll come on again. I mean, you got to be our regular, so we'll bring you on every few months.
I should be
Update
here.
us on what's
Yeah.
going on.
Like I said, we should have this conversation every weekend. I know I got tons of ideas.
Okay, cool, man. Because there's actually so
I
many
think
things like I want to talk to you about, but
I
there's
think
all
we
different
spend more.
subjects.
I think we spend more time talking about the gnomes in this particular episode than
Yeah.
the day and night of Brahma. But they all fit in, right? They all fit in, right?
Yeah, they all
From
fit in.
Yeah.
Have they found the ant people in the fossil record?
no, they're too smart for that. I don't think they ever. I mean, those guys actually have very long lifetimes, and there's an interesting theory that in India that uh, when humans die, some of us are actually reborn as ant people,
Mm.
as the dwarfs. So some kind of there's some kind of connection between us, which is why they are not necessarily hostile towards us. If they were hostile, they would have done a lot of stuff. I know they're helpful and supportive towards humans.
But they also might not be on our. So we're finding fossil records because the entities or the dinosaurs or whatever are physically in the third dimension or in our space. It's possible that these entities are not in our space. So when although we can see them and they're able to communicate with us and interact with us, perhaps when these entities pass on, same as what the idea about the Yeti and the Bigfoot and the abominable snowman, they kind of operate on a different a different frequency or a different dimension. So when they pass away, you're never going to find it because it's never in our space.
Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to live in, let's say, vast underground caverns, and unless you find those places, and they may not even be buried in those caverns. They might be, if they might even practice cremation. I mean, for all you know, and if you're cremating a body, then all the evidence goes. So yeah, I mean, it's not a part of the normal fossil records that we look for. It's a different space, and we don't know what they do with their bodies once they pass on. But they have very long lifetimes.
I mean, all the giants that they found, all the giant skeletons. I mean, no one's ever revealed any of that. I mean, the Smithsonian's probably
they've got them. They've got them.
The ant people skeletons are probably in the back of the Smithsonian.
The giant fossils. Yeah, the giant fossils they have found may not necessarily be the Yetis or the Bigfoots. I mean, they could be humans in an earlier time who were really big, and there was a lot of mating going on between humans and the extraterrestrials, and some of those demigods, as we call them in Greek mythology, they were supposed to be like 15 feet tall. yeah, the Nephilim or the demigods. They were supposed to
Yeah.
be like 15 feet tall. I mean, there are the Greek historians when they spoke about people like Hercules or others like him who are like their heroes and they're like part human, part god. They said that they used
Yeah.
to be like 15 feet tall. And we have found skeletons which range between 11 to 15 feet. I mean, these are documented skeletons. They have been reported in nature. We have the evidence for that. I mean, it's not like somebody saw it somewhere and there's no evidence. There
Eh,
are
eh,
two such
eh,
cemeteries in France where they found skeletons which are like as big as 10 to 15 feet in height.
Yeah.
So,
What was the
and they,
remember when we were in we were at that
yeah,
Buddhist temple
Burzaham.
that Jesus helped build. And what was the area? Busan.
No,
And
Burzaham was the megalith. That was the megalithic structure. And then some guy, we went to this Buddhist stupa, and the caretaker out there, he told us that at Burzaham, they had found skeletons which are like 9 feet tall, right?
yeah, he said
And
they dug them up there and then they took them away.
yeah, but then I cross-checked, and it seems that they were not so big. They were bigger than us, but they were not so big.
Okay.
They were not so
Damn.
big. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Anticlimax. I wish I never asked you. I thought it
Should have asked that question, man. Damn it. Yeah, but still
was,
they were bigger.
yeah,
They
geez.
were bigger. Yeah.
they're bigger because we have declined in size. So, and
Mm.
Burzaham goes back like
Yeah,
7,000
maybe.
years. So
Yeah.
7,000 years ago, the skeletons were much bigger than the ones you're going to find today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that not to
Okay,
do
guys,
with the Earth's
I'm gonna
gravity?
get
Sorry,
some.
just a quick one before you go. The size, is that not to do with the Earth's gravity? Is it not the stronger the gravity gets, the smaller you get?
Yeah. It's probably that's what's
Mm,
probably happening because
mm,
we have this thing called the gravitational constant, the
mm.
big G, right? And that may not be a constant. It might be really fluctuating over time.
Oh
And
my
if
gosh,
the
because that's the whole conspiracy of the dinosaurs actually couldn't actually hold their weight. Like
Mm.
their bones would have crushed and those birds wouldn't have flown. There's that whole thing because they say gravity should have actually been a lot less in the
And it would have been
time
at
of
that time. It
yeah,
would have been a lot less. Yeah.
it would have been a lot less. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the gravitational constant is not really constant. It's just constant for this period of time that we're in.
Mm.
But it might sometime down the line we might again have those big creatures if the gravitational constant changes.
Well, I know you got to go,
Yeah.
but before you go, they've
Drama
actually, I don't know
does
if you recently found between South America and Africa recently. It was discovered. I saw it on the news about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. There's a section there of gravity that is actually weaker than the rest of the world, and they're scared to
That,
send
that's
the
that's the
the
magnetic
planes.
field.
Yes, the
That's a
planes and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a magnetic field. Yeah.
Yes,
Bermuda
correct.
Triangle.
It's
Yeah.
called, I think, the South Atlantic anomaly or something like that.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and that place, the magnetic field is around 20 to 25% weaker than the field
Yes,
around it,
correct.
and nobody really knows why
There's
that is
alien
so.
base under there.
Yeah, it could
But
be
it's
anything.
funny when I was in India when we were going up that. Were you still with us, Viva, or did you get the altitude sickness and gone
No,
back when
I didn't go to Ladakh, so it might have been later. You have this place where the car kind of
the car where the
this.
guy turns
Yeah,
the car off and then the
yeah,
magnetic
yeah,
it just pulls the car up the hill.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the
with weaker
Yeah.
magnetic fields, weaker gravity, that's 100%. No, but cool.
Jeez.
Bibhu, thanks to Span, man, again for joining us. It's always a pleasure
Oh,
having you.
brilliant. Awesome,
Yeah, it
man.
was
So good
fun.
seeing
Yeah.
you, Viva.
Yeah.
Really nice
Miss you,
seeing you,
man.
Will. Yeah. I know. It's been a long time since we chatted on the video.
I
Yeah.
know we need to get back to India, man. Jeez.
I know
Love
it's
that
already
place.
been like 3 months since we did that trip. Time for the next one.
Yeah.
Let's
Next
plan
one.
I know.
one.
Next one will be at the
Nice,
time of
nice.
the Yuga shift.
Let's plan the next one in Angkor Wat, in Cambodia. You can get some good
Yes,
footage there.
yes. Okay, cool. Yes. Angkor Wat. I've actually been there, but yeah, great to go back.
Yeah, 100. Cool. All right.
Okay,
No,
well,
guys.
Thanks so much, dude. So
Bibhu,
good
yeah,
seeing
thank you.
man.
Thank you for
Yeah,
joining
Will,
us,
enjoy
man.
your time. Enjoy your time with the family. See you guys.
Yes, thanks,
Cool.
man. Thanks for
Cheers,
making
Bibhu.
it.
Cheers. Right, awesome. Okay, cool, dude. I know you got to go shoot. So that's it for
So-
tonight.
so-
yeah, that's it for tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, we will see you guys next week for our next show. Enjoy your week, and we'll enjoy your time with your family that you've got there. And yeah, have a good one, mate.
Yeah, you too, man.
Cool. Awesome. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Cheers, bud.